Good morning. Hopefully everybody's had a good kick off to their week. And we are on our platforms live today. And this month we were talking about goal setting and achieving. How can you set a goal, achieve your goal, and continue moving forward? One of the biggest things that I learned in setting goals and achieving them is that pick one that you really desire. Pick a goal that drives you. Pick a goal that you go to bed with at night and you wake up in the morning. When you find that right goal, that goal that's going to move you towards the things that you desire, every time you're working in that direction, to that path, you are gaining more speed because it's something that you really want to fulfill. At the same time, you're learning who you have to be to see what you want to see. And that is the process and really the fulfillment of setting a goal and growing into your goal, is that you're learning what you have to adjust in yourself. You're learning what you have to change in yourself. You're learning new habits, new behaviors, and a new way of being, human being, to live a more fulfilled life. And we do that by learning to do what we don't know how to do. I'm going to say that again. You learn that by doing the things that you don't know how to do. What you know how to do has already taken you as far as you are, and you're saying you want more. The only way to become more, to see more, and to have more is to do more of what you don't know how to do. Zach, we're going to turn off that right TV, or the front stage TVs. I think that's where that echo's coming from. Did you hear me, Zach? It's coming out in the TV, so whenever I play the video, it's going to echo through my... I'm going to play a video. I'm going to get started here.
In this room can become financially independent. There's no trick to it. This afternoon we're going to talk about that a little bit. As this power flows in, it's neither negative or positive. Jan, I'm going to tell you there's nothing on the cover of that book. Am I right or wrong? I'm wrong. Do you want to stand up for a second, Jan? You want to get a nice shot of this lady. She's a pretty student, all right? I'm going to tell you they were never like this when I went to school. All right. Now, Jan, you're looking at the cover of this book. And I'm telling you there's nothing there, but in your mind, your eyes are telling you there is something there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let's let the camera have a shot of this. You see, there is print on the cover of this book. It says, Think and Grow Rich. And that's what Jan is looking at. And when I tell her there's nothing there, she is bound to tell me I'm wrong. Now, Jan, let's look at the other side of the book. I'm going to tell you there's nothing on the book. What do you say now? Now I'm right.
You're right.
Now I'm right. A minute ago I was wrong, and now I'm right. Thanks very much, Jan. All right. Now, what did we do here? We just turned the book around. Somebody say, well, that's a cute little trick you pulled on Jan, and if that's where we stopped it, that would be right. But John talked about laws earlier this morning. He was talking about the action-reaction being equal and opposite. As you sow, so shall you reap. Energy always returns to its source of origination. Well, you know, there's other laws. That's not the only law. There are 7 laws. Dr. Werner von Braun one time pointed out that the natural laws of this universe are so precise that you and I don't have any difficulty today building a spaceship. We can send a person to the moon, and we can literally time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. He also said these laws must have been set by someone. Now, the law that I'm referring to here is not the law of cause and effect or sowing and reaping. It's the law of polarity or the law of opposites. You see, Jen, there's a front to the book and there's a back to the book. There's a right and a left to the book. And what's right to me is left to you. There's a top and a bottom to the book. There's an inside and an outside to the book. And you couldn't have one without the other. If I started to slice the right side off this book, when I've taken the last slice for the right side off, I've also gotten rid of the left. You couldn't possibly have one without the other. Nothing complicated about that. Pretty simple idea, but not understood by many people. We use these two symbols to illustrate the law of opposites. And you know, as this power flows into us, we can make out of it anything we choose. You can sit there, this is the intellectual mind, activate your higher faculties. I'm not talking here about your sensory factors, I'm talking about your higher faculties. You can exercise them, and you can literally create the start of anything because you are creative. You are a creative being. Do you know it's these faculties that separate you from your pets? Archibald MacLeish had a character stand up in one of his plays. It's called The Secret of Freedom. He had this character stand up. It was a Pulitzer Prize-winning play, too. He had a character stand up and say, the only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. He was right. You've got marvelous faculties. Do you know that this auditorium was nothing but an image in the mind of one individual at one time? Do you know that the clothes you're wearing, the camera that I'm staring at was nothing but an idea in the mind of one individual at one time? Now I want you to imagine 100 years ago, someone saying to you, I've got an idea. I've got a picture here of building something, I'm going to call it a camera, and I'll shoot a picture of someone in Seoul, Korea, and simultaneously they're going to see it in Nacogdoches, Texas, in their family room on something we'll call a television. I'll take that picture and I'll send it zigging off through time and space. I'll bounce it off something I'm going to call a satellite, and it'll bounce right in to a receiving set on a television set in your family room. Now you know that the boys in the white coats would have been coming for that guy. But the truth is we did it. We did it. Yet in 1 week this year, 1 week in the past year, I conducted a seminar in Toronto, Canada, in Los Angeles, California, in Auckland, New Zealand, in Honolulu, Hawaii, in 1 week. I could have been flying over Tahiti, which I was, at 35,000 feet, going 600 miles an hour, press a button and my seat goes back, pull the thing out from underneath, and I could virtually turn it into a bed, hit another button and somebody come to my aid and they'd give me something hot or cold to drink. They'd give me something to eat. They'd give me a pair of earphones, plug into the seat, and I could listen to my choice of music. Or I might be able to watch a first-run movie. They'd wheel a little cart down beside my seat and they'd give me a hot meal. I could wander up to the wall of the ship or the bulkhead of the plane, take a little plastic card, plastic was something that didn't even exist when I was a child, stick it in this machine, take a telephone back to my seat, and phone my office in Willowdale, Ontario, Canada, while I'm at 35,000 feet, traveling 600 miles an hour over Tahiti, just about the opposite side of the globe. And I would have been able to take, if I wanted to, a laptop computer out of my briefcase, set it on my knee, snap a modem on it, with the telephone, communicate to my office in Willowdale. Or take a portafax again, snap that onto the phone, send the paper to my office in Willowdale. Where did all these things come from? Where do you think you got the digital watch that you have? There is only one source of supply. Every great teacher all down through history for the last 6,000 years in recorded history has told us that if we had our ear to the ground, we'd get the message. This is where everything starts. We build the picture in our mind. Do you know what our problem is? when we build that kind of a picture, we instantly say we can't do it if it's far beyond the results that we're getting. You wouldn't be able to get the picture if you couldn't do it. You know what our problem is? When we build that kind of a picture, we instantly say we can't do it if it's far beyond the results that we're getting. You wouldn't be able to get the picture if you couldn't do it. You can do anything you want. Anything you want. Now, picture, we instantly say we can't do it if it's far beyond the results that we're getting. You wouldn't be able to get the picture if you couldn't do it. You can do anything you want.
Now we come to this area here, and this is where the average individual folds, drifts. Has anybody heard drifting through life? You know how many people drift through life? They never do much more than do what they know and then drift. Bob spoke about many different areas in the process that we call thinking. And he talked about the law of polarity. He talked about the law of cause and effect. He talked about the law of opposites. Then he started to go into the image-making process. Everything that you see, everything that's been created, all started off in the imagination of an individual, a person that was using their higher faculties of the mind to originate. Now, there's very few people that are doing that. Why is there very few people that are creating something from the nothing? Anybody ever heard that before? And then nothing is everything? In the deep recesses of your consciousness, something you're always connected to, you receive ideas. But it's very rare that somebody is doing some thinking, some honest thinking. Now, thinking is not mental rehearsal. Just keep thinking about the same things from the past. That's not thinking. Thinking is organizing your mind to a new outcome, to imagining a new outcome. When you think from your past ideas and you keep grouping your past thoughts to move into the future, you're not thinking. That's just mental activity. And when you group it to do something different, that's real not originating power. You're going to repeat the past again. You're going to repeat the past results because you're repeating the past learning that you have came into. Now you may wonder, well, what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to originate. The learning process was never supposed to stop. When I say that, what age did you stop setting goals and achieving goals? At what age did you stop learning new things to go beyond where you're at? At some point in time, it could have been in your 20s, it could have been in your 30s, it could have been late 30s. Not very few people are going back to school after that. At what age did you stop learning something new to go beyond what you know? The age that you stop learning something new to the purpose of going beyond what you know how to do, to illustrate a different action, to illustrate a different understanding of awareness, to be compensated for different knowledge that you have. When was the last time that you stopped learning something new to acquire the benefits of it. A lot of you have not thought in this manner. Some of you went to college for a period of time. You completed the courses, you completed the education, you went into that field of work. You spent the years, you gained the knowledge, the understanding. That day you stopped learning how to express what you've learned. The day you reached the limit of that knowing, that knowledge, chances are you met the limit of the amount of money you're going to earn. Accident? No, it's right on purpose, right on plan. You see, we didn't know that the things that we're working towards are working towards us. And the day you stop working towards a new definite end, the acquiring of new knowledge to be paid to earn more money, the day that you stopped creating services or create something that was going to work for you, the day that your mind stopped thinking is the day you started to replay the same day over again. Now, some of you have been maybe replaying the same day for 10 years. For some of you, 5 years. For a lot of you, 20, 30, 40 years. Replaying the same day thinking something different's going to change. It's not. Because the day that you stopped learning how to acquire more knowledge and how to execute that knowledge to the outcome of earning more money, you stopped growing. You stopped experiencing more. For some of you that are young, the day that you stopped, or the day that you stop learning to adapt to the change that you have to become, will be the day that you will repeat the rest of your life till you decide to keep learning. And if you don't decide, like the majority of people, you're going to stay a victim of correspondence. You may say, what's a victim of correspondence? You decided to stop. You become a victim of yourself. You see, there are no victims. You decided not to. Results don't change by themselves. Results are a product of the way you think. We teach that goal setting and achieving is something you're never supposed to stop. And you may say, well, I'm too old to learn. Well, that's not true. Bob was a perfect example of that till the day he passed away. And I love the way you said it, I'm going to live till I die. And there's very few people that actually say that, I'm going to live till I die. Living till you die means you're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to set goals and you're going to achieve your goals. You're going to continue to learn what you don't know to adapt to the changes that you have to become to see what you want to see. You know and you understand how the laws of the universe work. It's create or disintegrate. You're not going to become one of those fellow victims and say, why me, poor me? No. It's because you didn't understand. It's called ignorance. Simply just not understanding how you work, how reality works. If you're watching this, you're getting the perfect opportunity to understand that your brain does not think. You think through your brain. Your brain does not think. Your body has no life and power, and your brain does not think. You think through your brain, and you give it life and power. Now, according to your visions and your desires, this is the outcome of that life and power. This will be in direct relationship to the amount of money you earn, by the need for what you do, number one, your ability to do it, number two, and the difficulty in replacing you, number three. Now, this law of compensation follows the same manner, whether within the individual or organization or in a company. The amount of money you earn is always in direct proportion, direct relation to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, the difficulty in replacing you. Now, some of you may say, well, I'm too old to learn something new. Whatever you focus on is what you attract. If you focus on money and you focus on how you're going to earn more, how you're going to create a system that works for you, you'll never work a day in your life if you go all the way with it. Because you no longer work for the money. The goal is you're going to create something that's going to work for you. When the goal is, I'm going to work for money, then you will always find an idea that's going to force you to travel through time and space and trade your body for it, because that was the idea. You see, we get things so wrong when we don't understand the way the mind works. When you think, I'm going to work for money, you're going to start getting light images and you're going to go find ideas to go work for money. But when you start to think, how am I going to get money to work for me? Which is not my time and my effort, and my time and my effort is being duplicated, you're going to begin to get those ideas. The only thing that could ever stop you is whenever you stop believing that anything is possible. The only thing that could intercept an idea or stop an idea is a like idea. I'm going to say that again. Anything that can stop an idea or control idea is a like idea. You think you can, you start beginning to get the images of that direction, of how it can be done. You start to believe it can be done, that's where it stops. You start to think it can be done, that's where it stops. See, the mind has a peculiar way of doing things in a certain way. But when you start to study the peculiar way, when you start to understand how the mind works, you get to understand yourself. I recall desiring to earn more money several times. Because when I get to that point, I desire to earn more. The first time I decided to earn more money, I started to receive ideas in that direction. I had to decide how much more was. When I started to decide how much more was, I started to look for the businesses that would pay that sum of money. And by law, as I looked and I acted, I started to learn who I had to become to adapt to those changes. Now, a couple of those businesses were things that I really didn't enjoy. And I didn't really find out that I didn't enjoy them until I started to look for my fulfillment on purpose. At the time, I thought they were okay. At the time, I thought that's what I needed. And that's all I needed at the moment. And that was. As long as that was as far as I was willing to stretch. It was okay for the time of my belief. But as I began to set more goals and achieve more goals, my beliefs began to change. My awareness began to sharpen. And as my beliefs began to change, my desires began to change. It's a funny thing when you start to really understand that your mind is a group of ideas. And if you really never really analyze your group of ideas, you don't even understand the things that's giving you your experiences. As my beliefs began to change, my actions began to change. my desire for more began to change. And in like manner, I've kept this habit. The law of giving and receiving continues to work in my fulfillment, in my direction, because I follow the law and I operate with it. Giving and receiving is the law of laws. And the more I give to myself, the more I receive. The more I give to study, research, developing myself, the more I receive. The more I give to setting goals and achieving goals, the more I receive. When you start to work with a law of giving and receiving, you'll find that you'll always give more than when you receive. And you'll always end up receiving more than what you give in the outcome. And if you keep doing this, it just keeps growing. Your beliefs just keep changing. And you begin to see, and you keep seeing more than you've ever seen before. Now, when you work opposite of this law, this is like going against the grain. This is like being stuck. This is like wanting to take more than what you do. And I've seen this so many times. I've seen it my whole life. I see it at every turn I walk. And this is the habit of most people. They want to take more than what they give. And this is why they always stay where they are. When you don't want to give more than what you receive, you always stay at the same place because you're not stretching, you're not growing, you're not learning to adapt, you're not changing yourself, you're not learning who you have to become to earn more money. And that individual stays there. I said, I'm not going to do more till I get paid more. That's why you'll always stay where you're at. I always had the habit of giving more than what I was earning at the time. Because I was always willing to give more, that means I was always willing to learn to become more. And by law of cause and effect, I would always earn more than what I was receiving. Eventually, it'll catch up to me again. And every time that money caught up to me, it would put me in a different position. Got to the point where there was no positions. The next point was earning your own company. When we begin to really understand the law of cause and effect, you begin to understand that your mind is the cause, and you really begin to understand that physical reality, as you see it, is the effect. Physical reality is a summation of your thoughts. It's feedback. I remember sitting with a neuroscientist, and we're discussing neurofeedback, and I'm sitting here watching this machine giving me feedback of the way my mind was operating. And I'm watching on the screen, and I'm seeing the feedback. This is seconds later. It's coming on the screen of the way I'm using my mind, my inspiration, my ideas. And it's giving me feedback of my energy, my thoughts, my frequency. And as we really begin to understand reality, reality is the same manner. The video on the screen is telling me data, it's giving me data of something that happened before. Even though it's tracking me pretty close to live, still has to be a couple of seconds off. It's still the past. Now, as I began to tell the neuroscientist, I'm going to change that frequency and I'm going to move it here, because I was setting the destination there, and I began to think on that frequency there, I began to alter what we were seeing on the screen. And as I began to alter what I was seeing on the screen, I began to illustrate the power of awareness, the power of consciousness, the ability to alter your own brain, your own brain frequency, your own mind was a choice. It's just giving you the feedback of what you're doing. And I started to think of reality as we see it and the circumstances that we see in life. That was clearly subjective. Subjective control. Life as you see it is clearly subjective. And that is the feedback from the way you control your thoughts, the beliefs you believe, you don't believe, the actions you take, you don't take. Everything is just feedback of the all-originating principle of the whole thing. It's you. You're the source of that power. I've watched that source of power leave the earth. I've watched that source of power come into earth. I've watched that source of power come into a little child. The little child is born. I've seen that source of power come in. I've seen that little source of power begin to develop itself, to learn around its environment, pick up ideas, begin to think, begin to imagine. I've watched that source of power evolve. I've watched that source of power think it's thinking until you show it how to really think. I watched that source of power originate. I watched that source of power destroy. I watched that source of power change itself. This all originating source of power is your mindset. And then off again, I've seen that source of power travel through time and eventually leave the planet. And all that time, it was not the brain and it was not the body. That source of power was using a brain, living in a body. And the day that source of power is gone, that body and that brain have no life and power, so they go back to earth. So the all-originating principle of the whole thing is the way you think, your mindset. Your mind is your spirit, entangled with ideas. At the beginning of this, I said, this month we were going over goal setting and achieving. What is it that you really want? What are you entangled with? What do you really desire to see? What do you really desire to create? What do you really desire to fulfill? Life is about fulfillment. Setting goals and achieving goals is a process to acquire that fulfillment. You're going to get to, the chances you're already here. The point to where you get to no return. The point to where you get to all that you know. Chances are you're here right now. You've been here 12 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. But you don't break the cycle. You haven't broken the cycle, not because you can't do more. You don't understand the way the mind works. We've done this several times. Conscious mind subconscious mind. And we keep doing it because this is how we understand energy. Then we have the body. And then we have the senses. The senses is how we pick up the information from our external world. You guys can see me right now. You can hear me right now. Some of you are listening. There's a difference. But you're getting this information all from your outside world. You have a body. And this body is picking up this information. This is what we see. The car. This is our physical world. We see 3D world. We don't see 4D up. 4D up is beyond the senses. But this is what's happening beyond the senses. This here. And as you think, and earlier I said the average individual is not thinking. What's thinking is their old grouped ideas. These group of ideas are what you know. And everything you know is right here. Your conscious mind, clearly subjective, because you're going to your filing cabinet. Whose filing cabinet? Everything that you know. And if you keep going to everything that you know, you keep telling the body to keep doing what it knows. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. Same thing. You know that the average individual repeats the same day the rest of their life? After their 30s, 24 to 27, they're normally going to repeat the rest of their life. Why? Because they're not willing to keep setting goals and achieving goals. They're not willing to keep learning what they don't know. The average individual stays stuck because they don't know how the mind works. If you keep thinking from what you know, you keep getting the same ideas of what you know, and the body keeps moving in the same direction of what it knows. You would say this would be madness. Do you know how many people have repeated the same madness the rest of their life? You see, what you don't know would save you. What you don't know would change you. But you're afraid to set goals that you don't know how to do. But what you don't know is that the goal was not to get, it's to grow. And as you set a goal to grow, the creative process is what you have to go through to see and hear what you want to develop. As you go through this process of setting goals and achieving goals, and you're learning who to become along the way, eventually you see what you want to see. Why? Because you were willing to adapt yourself to the changes that you had to have to become what you wanted to be. Your life changes quickly and automatically. Why? Because you're willing to know what you don't know. You're willing to change yourself. But this is no accident, and this does not happen to just anyone. It normally only happens to 3 to 5% of people. 97% stay here. 95, 96, 97% really never go beyond what they know. And they stay stuck in this manner the rest of their life. Not because they couldn't have more. They didn't understand the way the mind works, and that's what we teach. We teach people how to change the way they think on purpose to definite ends. Everything that you want is on the other side of learning. Everything that you want is on the other side of a goal. Goals are not to get. Goals are to change yourself, to change the belief systems that you have that are holding you back. Take a look at what we're doing. We are the Institute of the Mind. Goal setting and achieving is what we do. This is what we teach, and this is what we teach everyone how to do. And we learn it through a process. And that process has been taught for years. The information that we're teaching has been taught for years. Bob's knowledge, I want to study the Bob, he's had over 60 years of his own working of this information and helping others achieve success. Now, the men he studied before that had years. We have hundreds of years of study that prove that this information works. You have to work. Take a look at what we're doing. Subscribe to I Am Mastermind, and don't just stop there. Send us a message to get signed up to one of our programs. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.